Mr. Ramosepele is busy with processing.
Here, Ramosepele.
Thank you, Madam. Morning, Brigadier.
Morning, sir.
Now, yesterday when we adjourned, I had just asked you a question to which you responded that in the description to warrant officer Steenkamp, the witnesses that were in the house, and some of them, because I do believe that Mthokozisi Twala consulted with warrant officer Steenkamp much later. But those that consulted with warrant officer Steenkamp on the 29th, they did not give the description of suspect V. And your answer was that it's correct. However, in their statements, they do mention some descriptions. That's where we ended, to remember?
Bathi-ke izolo ngesikhathi sicekela ke impumelelo ngaphambi kwenkantolo bayofakazi bakho-ke kade besikhuluma khona-ke ngodaba lokuthi-ke isitatimende sakamnumzana Mthokozisi Twala sathathwa ngemuva kwesikhathi-ke eside lapho-ke ngemuva kokuthi sele ezinye izitatimende zabanye kufakazi selethathiwe-ke lapho-ke futhi bathi iningi labantu ade bekhona ngaphakathi-ke lapho kulo modlana-ke abakaze bakhulume ngokujulile noma bakhulume nesikhangiso-ke somlisi othizeni noma isigebengu sesibili sinjalo.
That is correct, my lord.
Bathi yebo kunjalo.
And in the descriptions that they gave, the people that were in the house, they gave the description of the second suspect as the following. He was much taller than the first intruder. He was wearing a hoodie. He was dark in complexion.
Bathi-ke abantu ade bekhona lapha ngaphakathi kulo muzi loyana bakhuluma mayelana nesigebengu sesibili noma isigamkhuba sesibili ukuthi mayelana nesikhangiso sakhe bathi kade kumuntu omude kunalona kade engeneqala futhi bathi bagqoke ihoodie kena-ke futhi enebala elimnyama.
Yes, that although I can't recall vividly, my lord, as to how it's outlined, it's lined up, but yes, to that effect, that is a description of the second suspect in terms of the description, my lord.
Athi yebo khona-ke kunjalo nanoma engasakhumbuli ngokujulile ukuthi kahle kahle baqala basho yiphi-ke inkulumo ukuthi ngabe umuntu omude noma umuntu ogqoke ihoodie noma umuntu omnyama ngokwebala.
And from their description in their statements, especially the initial statements of the 29th, or even supplementary statements that they made thereafter, did they make any specific or provide specific features or characteristics like the O-type beard, the soul patch, and golden teeth?
Bathi-ke le statement zabo zokuqala-ke abazenza ngelanga lange-29 zaka-October ngonyaka 2014 uma ngabe umele ebuza ukuthi ngabe mhlawumbe bakhuluma ngokujulile mayelana nesikhangiso somuntu noma mayelana nendlela umuntu wesibili kade ajangakala ngayo-ke lewathi kade nentshebe-ke kena-ke elawundi-ke futhi enelokhuzana enezivile egolide-ke ise futhi abeneletshe bathi uswine kena.
No, my lord, I can't remember specifically because these witnesses made various statements. The first statement that they made, it's on the 27th actually of October. Subsequent to that, 2014, subsequent to that, then there were others who made a supplementary affidavit. So for me, to be precise, one will have to go through all those statements, to see exactly if they have not changed the initial description or not, my lord.
Athi lapho-ke akanako ukukhumbula ngokugcwele futhi nakuqiniso-ke lapho-ke athi kepha-ke abantu abayitatimende zokuqala-ke bazenza ngelanga lange-27 zaka-October ngonyaka 2014 athi uma ngabe umeli efisa ukuthi atholeke incazelo eqondile noma impendulo eqondileke mayelana nodaba lombuzo lo ade awubuza kuzokuthi ahambe abheke kuma-statement wonkana ukuthi mhlawumbe bakhuluma ngalolu daba lolo noma abakaze bakhulume ngalo.
And now my suggestion will be the description given in their statements of taller than the first intruder, dark in complexion, and wearing a hoodie is a generic description. It can apply to many individuals.
Athi-ke mayelana nendlela abamkhuluma ngayo umuntu wesibili mhlawumbe isigamkhuba sesibili sangaphakathi kwalo muzi lana-ke ukuthi kade bekhuluma nje nanoma kodwa bekhuluma ngesikhangiso somuntu nanoma ubanike lapho-ke la bathi kade khona-ke umuntu okhona-ke emude nanoma kunalowo oqala ade angenile ngaphakathi kulela khaya futhi egqoke ihudi kena-ke futhi anombala-ke omnyama ngokumbala wakhe osebusweni.
My lord, that is correct. It is a generic statement. However, you need to take the description into the context of what is happening. Then the situation changes. Because in general, if you're talking about that description, for example, in the middle of the city, it is general because the likelihood there will be a number of people perhaps wearing a hoodie, particularly today since it's cold. But if you now take that description to the crime scene, it is specific because there's no other description or evidence that we've obtained that describe another person wearing a hoodie. So there is only one individual that is described as wearing a hoodie, including the witnesses. None of them were wearing a hoodie. So then it becomes unique if you take it in that context.
athi yebo-ke uma ngabe sokhuluma nje ngokuthi mhlawumbe into lejwayelekile nanoma ubani angagqoka-ke ihudi kenake athi vele uma sesikhuluma ngelanga lanamuhla-ke ngoba vele kumakhaza-ke futhi baningi abantu abagqoke-ke ihudi kepha athi uma sehlela-ke emuva ngelanga leli sigameko-ke la kwenza khona-ke isigameko bonkana abofakazi kade bekhona ngaphakathi kulela khaya lelana-ke athi bakhuluma ngendlela efanayo noma mhlawumbe basho-ke inkulumo efanayo uma bechaza-ke lesigemkhuba sesibili esangena phakathi kwalela khaya lena ukuthi kade sigqokeke ihudi kusona-ke futhi amude kunalona lesigamkhuba lesoqala esangena ngaphakathi futhi anebala elimnyama kuyena-ke lapho-ke athi futhi uma ejobela inkulumo yakhe kuwukuthi-ke bonkana abofakazi kade bekhona ngaphakathi lela khaya ngelanga lesigameko kade bengagqokile kamahudi.
But furthermore, my lord, so with that description, sorry, Mr. Ramosepele, if now you take that description, and I won't go into details, you take that description, you then marry it to the investigation and subsequent the evidence that was obtained against number 2, my lord. The picture then changes completely because then it shows that the evidence points to suspect B and suspect B, in terms of the investigation, points to accused number 2, my lord.
Athi yebo-ke uma ijula futhi ngazila athi uma ngabe bebona sebeqala bephenya-ke icala lapho-ke mayelana nesikhangiso noma mayelana nendlela kade bemchaze ngayo-ke noma bamkhuluma ngayo lesigilamkhuba sesibili-ke lapho-ke athi uma kade besenza ukuphenya kwecala mayelana nesigilamkhuba lesi sesibili-ke lapho-ke athi bonkana ufakazi bebutholile ibona ufakazi lobo obabaletha umsola wesibili.
I understand your explanation, Brigadier, but my question was simple. In their statements, understand that you want to marry to the background and what you now know. But in their statements, that is a generic description that somebody is tall, somebody is dark, and somebody had a hoodie. If the police go on that and say, go and look for somebody tall, dark, wearing a hoodie, at that time on the 26th, they could have picked up 10, 20 people.
Athi uyayizwa-ke impilo lapho-ke ubhekade kuGininda kepha-ke umbuzo kade ujulile wona-ke futhi kade unciphile nje athi bekakubuza phecelezi nodaba lwe-26 zaka-October ngomnyaka ka-2014 athi uma ngabe kade bekhuluma ukuthi isigilamkhuba sesibili sangena phakathi kwelakhayana-ke ukuthi umuntu omude ngokomzimba-ke lapho-ke futhi bagqoke ihudi kuyena futhi anebala elimnyama-ke athi uma ngabe abofakazi baqeqesha amaphoyisa-ke lolu daba lolo-ke bese amaphoyisa bayaphuma bayahamba bagcinana nalesigilamkhuba-ke lapho-ke athi amaphoyisa bengakhona kathi mhlawumbe gcine sebabopha-ke abantu abayishumi noma abayishumi nambili akusenjalo.
No, I disagree, my lord. If you take, because you need to take this into context, the description is given indeed for the 26th of October 2014, and the time is indicated, and it is very specific where this tall, dark individual with the hoodie went into. He went to the Khumalo's house. Subsequently, there was a shooting, and people then ran out. Now, if police follow that lead, there is no way they'll arrest the wrong person because there is no evidence in this docket that during that commotion there were more than one person wearing a hoodie and others were innocent person. There's only one individual, which is suspect B, that was wearing a hoodie. So there couldn't be a mistake that will arrest wrong people. You'll either not find people or arrest the right person, my lord.
Athi cha kahambisane-ke nenkulumo kaMnelike lapho-ke athi kepha-ke uma ngabe sesibuka-ke udaba lo lapha-ke mayelana nodaba lolu singala ngaphambi kwenkosi inkantolo-ke athi isigameko senzeka ngelanga lange-26 zaka-October ngomnyaka ka-2014 athi futhi isigameko senzeka ngaphakathi kwekhaya lakwaKhumalo-ke lapho-ke athi futhi bonkana abantu kade bekhona ngaphakathi kwekhaya lakwaKhumalo-ke yibona abakhuluma ngokuthi lo mlisa wesibili-ke nomhlawumbe isigilamkhuba sesibili-ke yisona esangena phakathi kwaleli khaya sigqoke-ke ihudi kusona-ke futhi akamude ngakatamude ngokomzimba wakhe futhi anebala elimnyama ngokwesikhangiso sakhe salana-ke ebusweni-ke noma indlela kade ajankala ngayo-ke lapho-ke athi kepha-ke khumula khona njathi uma ngabe uthi wena-ke lapha futhi abakaze basho ukuthi kwangenake abantu ababili noma abathathu kade begqoke-ke ingubo eyodwa-ke kade kuyihudi-ke leyo-ke futhi emude umuntu akhona noma mhlawumbe bebade abantu bakhona-ke athi kungakho ela esale emuva le nkulumo eyaqhamuka kubufakazi akade bekhona-ke kulela khaya lakwaKhumalo.
Brigadier, it's a point that I'm not going to have a tete-a-tete with you. This is a point that I'll argue at the end of the whole case. Should we arrive there to say this was a general or a generic description, it could have matched 1 million, 2 million, 3 million people by saying somebody is tall, dark, wearing a hoodie. But I'll leave it at that.
Athi kumele ngakaphinda bese ethathela-ke emahlombe-ke lo daba lale nkulumo lena-ke ubhekade kuGininda bakhuluma bekaphindula kulona-ke athi yena-ke lento into ejwayelekile athi bangathola ukuthi mhlawumbe ngelanga leli khona abantu abawu-1 million mhlawumbe 2 million abade begqokile ingubo eyodwa-ke futhi ade bebade futhi banebala elimnyama. Athi manje usakazo iletha-ke uma sebaphikisana ithimba labashushisi futhi nohlangothi labameli.
Now, and I'm still talking about the statements of the witnesses in the house. That's where we ended up yesterday. And in their statements, did they mention a specific color of the hoodie, the witnesses that were in the house?
Athi sasekulona-ke lo daba-ke labofakazi abakade bakhona ngaphakathi kwaleya muzo kaKhumalo. Manje umbuzo kuwukuthi ngabe abofakazi bakhuluma phecelezi nodaba lombala wehudi ukuthi ihudi kade ikuyihudi yombala onjani?
We don't mean to interfere with my learned friend's cross-examination, but what is the point of focusing on what the witnesses have said when they were here in court, they've testified, and they were cross-examined on the contents of their statement? Now, what is the point of asking Brigadier Gininda to comment on their statements when they have already testified? We submit, my Lord, that it's unfair to ask Brigadier Gininda on the details of those statements when they've already testified. This is a point that can be taken up by my learned friend, as is correctly pointed out in argument, my Lord.
As the court persists, my Lord. My Lord, you see, I'm not sure even the basis of the objection. Hence, I've said there are certain pillars of objection that I'm irrelevant, I'm repetitive, I'm badgering the witness. I don't know what the basis of this objection is. But simply, my Lord, when I asked Brigadier Gininda whether the witnesses in the house provided or furnished warrant officer Steenkamp with a description of suspect B, he said, I'll answer it in two parts. On the main, no. But in their statements, they did say the description. Now, this leads me to this.
Well, my learned friend has asked us what is the pillar of our objection. It's an unfair question. It's an unfair question in the sense that the witnesses have testified, they've given their version, they were cross-examined. Now, what is the point of asking Brigadier Gininda to comment on their statement? We submit that if my learned friend wants a pillar, we're saying it's an unfair question to the witness.
Okay. Brigadier Gininda, if you can answer, you can say, I cannot comment because I did not make those statements. You can answer for yourself before the mouth. Can you comment on what I've put to you?
Athi kumele uma ngabe uyakhona ukuthi uphendule manje nombuzo kade ubuzile ungakhona ukuthi uphenduleke maku nayo impendulo.
No, my Lord, I didn't make those statements. All I can comment about is the investigation. But to comment as to what the person said, as I've said, my Lord, one will have to go through those statements with, as there are more than one statement to really recall what people have said. But I was not the author, neither the Commissioner of Oath when those statements were taken. So I can only comment on the investigation. And if I have to be specific in terms of what is contained in their statements, one then will have to refresh his memory by going through those statements, my Lord.
Athi kufanele akhoneke ukuphendula ngoba kade kumasuye bakabhala idocument zabo ufakazi futhi akade ngikho ngesikhathi the commissioner kama statement abo ufakazi athi uma ngaba bangavuma ukuthi angene kuma statement bese futhi abafundeke futhi ekuthizeni abuze kumcabango wakhe athi la ngakhona ukuthi aphendule khona.
I can, however, my Lord, assist on Exhibit J, Warrant Officer Steenkamp, because we dealt with it and it's still fresh in my memory, and I can agree in that exhibit that the description of the hoodie is not given by the people who are inside the house in terms of the color, but is given rather by Makaleni because they didn't describe suspect B. So that is the closest I can describe the color of the hoodie, and the color is described as black, my Lord.
Athi ke futhi uma ngaba angaphinda futhi abuya alekelele ngosinkantolo ke lapho kade khona ke udaba lemibukiso engaphansi kweexhibit J athi uma engacaphula phakathi kwenkulumo ade bhala lapho ke warrant officer Steenkamp phecelezi nodaba lombuzo lelo umele alibuza ke malana nengubo umbala wengubo kade ugqokiwe lapho ke lesiklemkhuba ke sesibili lapho ke athi bonkana abantu kade bekhona ke ngaphakathi balela khale labakaze bakhulume ngombala wengubo ukuthi kade ingubo khona ke mayihudi la khona ke kade le nombala muphi ke kulona ke athi kepha ke umuntu owakhuluma ke ngombala wehudi kade kumnomzana uMakeleni ke umbala awukhulumile noma mhlawumbe umbala wehudi awukhuluma amaphoyiseni ke kade kumbala ke omnyama.
Now let's move to a different aspect, Brigadier. Did you, in the course of your investigations, interview any of the witnesses that were in the house who stated something like this? That now that the event happened a long time ago, I am unsure as to whether or not I can still identify the suspects that entered the house.
Bathi ngesikhathi bophenya ke icala kho lele ngabe mhlawumbe khona ke lawahlala phansi kwabese wakhulumisana amathupha ke nabantu nabufakazi abakade bekhona ke ngaphakathi kwala khalena kubabuza ngala nesikhangiso ke salokhu selesilam kuba sesibilike noma ubabuza ngemuva noma babuza ukuthi manje ngoba sele kungemuva kwesikhathi isigameko lesenzekile ngabe bangakhona yini ekuthizeni basho isikhangiso sesilam kuba sesibili.
Yes, my recollection, my Lord, it will be Mr. Mthokozi Sithwala and Tumelo Madlala.
Athi yebo ke ngokukhumula kwakhe ke abantu ababili ke lapho ke uTumelo Madlala futhi uMthokozi Sithwala.
Thank you, Brigadier. Now, with respect to Tumelo Madlala, do you recall when you interviewed him and what he expressed to you about the certainty or uncertainty of identifying the suspects in future, should he see them?
Bathi ke mana nodaba lwaTumelo Madlala ke ngesikhathi bokhuluma naye ngabe mhlawumbe ombuza ukuthi angakhona yini ethizeni abakhombeke ekulamkhuba lezi ezangene ngaphakathi kwelakhalena noma ngabe angaze ayibone.
No, my Lord, I will not recall exactly what he said, but what I do recall, he didn't say he can't identify the person. He was not sure because of the time. At some stage, I'm just not sure whether it's him or it's Mr. Twala. They said it's 50-50. So it wasn't a denial that they can, but there was also no admission that 100% we can because of the time. So they were like in the middle, saying we are not really sure because of the time that has lapsed, my lord.
Athi yebo kepha kanaso isiqiniseko ukuthi ngabe mhlambi ke uTumelo Madlala ke noma uMthokozi Sithwala wakhuluma ke lapho ke kanjalo ke athi kepha ke ngesikhathi bekhulumisana nabo ke bona bathi bami phakathi nendawo ke bangakhona ukuthi bamkhombe bese bangakhona ukuthi bayikhombe ke ligila mkhulu.
Hence I'm saying, Brigadier, I didn't say that, they didn't say they cannot. I said the uncertainty. Uncertainty embraces both sides of the spectrum. I may not. I'm unsure. That's the uncertainty. And specifically, Brigadier, I don't want to waste time. If you've got 8216 in front of you, that's the statement that you took, and it relates to, on this aspect, to Tumelo Madlala.
Yes, I do recall, my lord, that I took a statement from him.
But
I want you to have it and read it because I want to introduce it as an exhibit here. That will be a statement that was taken on the...
What is the index number 2?
Sorry, Brigadier, A216. Because, let me approach, may I approach my...
Yes.
Do you have it in front of you?
I just, what is the
it was
index
taken
number?
down on the 20th, sorry, Brigadier, the 5th November 2020 at 1918 by yourself.
But what is the index number?
I said it's A216.
216. No. My lord, can I ask maybe the state advocate to assist me, maybe with a copy of 216, because I seem to be struggling.
My lord, perhaps because I'll introduce it into evidence anyway. It's a shortish statement. Unfortunately, the Brigadier writes like a medical professor, so it's going to be difficult for me to read his handwriting. If I can give him my statement, it's only highlighted, there are no notes. You can read from it, then we'll make copies for the court and ask for it to be admitted as an exhibit.
So it reads as follows, my lord. I, the undersigned, Tumelo Brian Madlala, states further that on Sunday, the 25th of October 2020, I received a call. No, let me finish and read. I'll give it to you. Yeah. I received a call from Colonel Gininda during the course of the day. The colonel informed me that there are suspects that they have identified, and then said on the said case of the death of Senzo Meyiwa, I was informed that the suspects in question are suspected to be involved in the said murder of Senzo Meyiwa. The colonel asked me if I will be able to identify any of the suspects I saw when the offense took place in October 2014. I informed the colonel that this incident took place a long time ago, and I am not sure if I will be able to identify them. I indicated to him that I am not sure, in bracket 50-50, my lord. And then the next paragraph, it's a sworn, basically. I know and understand the contents of the statement. I have no objection of the taking of the prescribed oath. I consider the prescribed oath to be binding on my conscience. It is signed, my lord, by Mr. Madlala on the 5th of November 2020 and commissioned by me on the same day, my lord, 1918, my lord.
Manje afuna ukufakaza mina ledaba lenkulumo statement asathatha ke lapho kuTumelo Madlala ke uTumelo Brian Madlala ke inkulumo ayikhuluma leli ngaphansi lena ke ngaphansi kwesifungo ke athi ngesonto ngelanga la nge25 zaOctober ngomnyaka ka2020 yena ke wathola ucingo liqhamuka lapho ke kuKolonel kuGininda ngesikhathi bebakhuluma lapho ucingweni bese ngelanga lelo ke uKolonel lapho wamtshela ukuthi lapho ke ucela ahlangane naye noma ucela ukuthi wamtshela ukuthi khona ke abasola abathulile lapho ke ethola ukuthi mhlambe banesandla ke lapho ke ucala lelo kushona kukaMufika lapho kuSenzo Meyiwa ke lapho ke athena ke wamtshela ukuthi abasola bayathola kathi mhlawumbe banesandla ke noma banegalelo ke ekushonini kukaSenzo Meyiwa kulecala leli bese lapho uKolonel
the colonel asked me.
Athi lapho uKolonel wambuza ke ukuthi engabe mhlawumbe angakhona ukusiza ekuthizeni ke abakhombeke abantu labo ke uma angabuya futhi ababone futhi abantu bengene ngaphakathi belakhaya ngelanga lesigameko ngenyanga kaOctober ngomnyaka ka2014 bese yena ke watshela ngicamana necala lokushona kukaMufi lenzeka lapho ke athena ke icala lenzeka ngemuva kwesikhathi eside kakhulu angeke abe naso isiqiniseko ngokugcwele ekuthizeni abakhombeke abantu labo uma engabuya ababone futhi usho ukuthi yena kade emiphakathi nendawo 50% ukuthi abakhombe ukuthi 50% ukuthi angabakhombi ngemuva isigameko lesi sele senzeka ngemuva kwesikhathi esindlule lapho-ke sothatha-ke isifungo sakhe-ke wafunga ngaphansi kwamaphoyisa ngesikhathi bathatha istatement lesi-ke athi istatement basithatha-ke lapho-ke ngelanga lange-5 zakaNovemba ngomnyaka 2020 isikhathi kade kuyimizuzu ewu-18 ngemuva kwehora lesikhombisa ebusuku ngamantambama-ke bese lapho-ke uKenneth naye-ke Brigadier Kenneth naye lapho-ke wakhomishina istatement lesi-ke ngalo lelo langa lange-5 zakaNovemba ngomnyaka ka-2020-ke ngesikhathi imizuzu ewu-18 ngemuva kwehora lesikhombisa.
And Brigadier, in fact, at the time that statement was made and commissioned, you correct me if I'm wrong, all the 5 gentlemen that are accused of these offences were already in custody, correct?
Athi-ke uzomlungisa-ke uma ngaba engaqinisile-ke athi ngesikhathi lesi statement besithathwa-ke lapho-ke ngenyanga kaNovemba-ke bonkana abasolwa labo bahlanu-ke bebavele beboshiwe.
Correct, my lord.
Athi yebo kunjalo.
And in fact, 2 days later, they appeared for the first time at the Boksburg Magistrates Court on their first appearance, correct?
Athi-ke ummeli bese ngemuva kwamalanga amabili-ke lapho-ke baqhamuka ngaphambi kwenkosi yenkantolo yaseBoksburg mayelana necala leli abakade bethosa lona kusenjalo yini?
Yes, my lord, on the 27th of October 2020.
Athi yebo kunjalo ngelanga lange-27 zaka-October ngomnyaka ka-2020.
Now, Brigadier, let me briefly move over again to a different aspect. I did touch on it the last time, but I just want to finalize it, and then I'll be done with my cross of you. This aspect relates to the following. There was no identity parade held in respect of the 5 gentlemen sitting and standing here before court, correct?
Athi lapho-ke uma ngabe khuluma futhi onyaka udaba ukuthi anikaze nenze i-identification parade la kade kukhonjwa khona-ke abasola bonkana abaqhamuka ngaphambi kwenkosi yenkantolo-ke ngabe kusiqiniso lelo?
Yes, it was not done, my lord.
Athi yebo ayikaze yenziwe.
And the last time when we went over this point, you'll correct me if I'm paraphrasing you correctly, you stated that one of the reasons was that already they had been to a previous identity parade involving the arrest of the first suspect in this matter, Mr. Mbata, and for that reason, you saw no necessity of holding another ID parade. Am I paraphrasing you correctly? Or you can state how you put that answer.
Athi-ke uma engacaphule kahle-ke kwinkulumo owayikhuluma ubuyeke ulungiseke lapho-ke athi wena-ke uthi wathi abofakazi sele bahamba baya ukwenza lokukhomba kusho ukuthi identification parade leyo-ke la abafika bakhomba khona-ke umnumzana uMbatha bese wathi kungakho lesikhathi lesi ungabasile ekuthizeni bahambe bayokhomba abasolwa laba baqhamuka ngaphambi kwenkosi yenkantolo-ke athi uma ngabe engakhulumile iqiniso umlungisi.
No, my lord, my recollection, and that played a very critical role. I've indicated that it was a prosecutorial-driven investigations. So you get guided as people aligned in terms of the course of investigations. And I think when I referred to the first ID parade, it was in relation, in my recollection, my lord, it was in relation to Mrs. Khumalo Senior in terms of her and the people who went to identify the wrong person. It was in that context, but in essence, the investigation was prosecutorial driven. And I indicated, obviously, insofar as my interview I had with these 2 witnesses, Mr. Madlala and Tumelo Madlala and Mr. Mtokosi Sithwala, in terms of what they said, in terms of the identification, my lord, at the time.
Athi-ke lapho-ke icala kade liseshwa-ke ibona-ke futhi ithimba labashushisi futhi kade bekhulumisana-ke lapho-ke athi lokhu akhumbulayo kepha-ke ibona-ke isinqumo kade siqhamuka kwithimba labashushisi-ke ekuthizeni kumele benze ini nokuthi kumele bengenzi ini-ke lapho-ke athi khumbula khona njalo-ke ukuthi lapho-ke umuntu oqala kade ehambile lapho-ke noma udaba lolu-ke nokukhomba-ke abantu lapho kade senziwa-ke uMiss Khumalo-ke usiniya ukuthi umama omdala lapho kwaKhumalo-ke uyena owahamba wakhomba-ke lapho-ke lo msolo oqala kade eboshiwe phecelezi nodaba lwecala leli-ke lapho-ke athi kepha-ke uma ibuka udaba lama-statement istatement sikaTumelo Madlala-ke futhi uMthokozi Sithwala-ke athi isona lesi kade ekhuluma ngaso-ke malana ngesikhathi baphendula-ke lo mbuzo loyo.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, the specific circumstances that led you not to hold, because it's prosecutorial-driven investigation, the prosecutors that you were conferring with told you not to hold, conduct an ID parade. Is that how I should understand you to be saying?
Athi ngabe uzwa kahle-ke uma ngabe uthi wena-ke kade icala liseshwa-ke yinina futhi nithi sisebenzisane ithimba labashushisi-ke la abakade ukhulume ngabo-ke kuqala-ke manje sho ukuthi abashushisi ibona abacela ukuthi misa kancane ungayenzi i-identification parade noma?
No, my lord, when you work with prosecution, and that's my experience, most of the time when they give you guidance is for the purpose of them preparing the prosecution. So if they push you to that direction or direct you to go to a certain direction, it does not mean that the other party are blocking you from it. It's a strategy that they're adopting. They give guidance, we follow it. Hence I said, on our part, I was able to interview the 2 witnesses and the statement speaks for themselves. But in the guidance, I can't speak to them to say, this is it, they didn't want us to do it. There's a reason in terms of how they execute their job insofar as I understand, my lord, but I can't speak on their behalf.
athi-ke lapho-ke angekhe asho ngokugcwele ukuthi lapho-ke ebona abamthethe angakwenzi lokho noma kepha-ke akhumbule khona nje ngesikhathi basenza-ke basesha icala leli-ke athi kade sibenzisana-ke nethimba labashushisi-ke athi isikhathi nesikhathi bakhulumisana futhi ibona kade bemupha izeluleko noma igayidesi ukuthi kumele asebenze kanjani lecala leli-ke nokuthi yini ekumele ukuthi ayenze ukuthi yini engamele ayenzeke athi abantu abangaba sesimeni esikahle sokuphendula phecelezi nodaba lombuzo lo kade ngobuzwa-ke athi yilona-ke ithimba noma ihhovisi labashushisi.
Let me ask it differently. You as the lead investigator, was the holding of an ID parade in respect of the 5 gentlemen before the court ever a consideration?
Athi-ke takubuze lobuzo ngale ndlela elandelayo. Njengoba kade kuwena-ke bohola-ke ithimba labaseshi becala, ngabe wena-ke wacabanga ukuthi kumele nibaye lapho-ke bekwenza identification parade phecelezi noma mayelana nodaba lwabasola bonkana?
Not the 5 gentlemen, my lord, because you do an ID parade in relation to the crime scene, so you don't do it in isolation. If you have 5 accused and you have witnesses saying we saw 5 accused, then your consideration will be responding to your preliminary investigation. What we have on the crime scene is that 2 suspects, Suspect A and Suspect B, were seen going into the house, and the statement speaks for themselves. So the consideration that would have went into my mind is insofar as the 2 suspects that went into the house, not 5, because it is clear from the description and the statements obtained that reference is made only to 2 and not 5. And then subsequent to that, investigation clearly indicated what role each suspect, accused, that is added on this matter played, and no such investigation suggests that all 5 were inside the house, my lord. So the consideration at the time was insofar as the 2 suspects that we suspected that they may have went into the house, my lord.
Athi-ke lapho-ke ngeke sikhona ukukhuluma ngokuthi bekumele senze identification parade abasola bonkana bobahlanu-ke lapho-ke athi kepha ukhumbula khona njalo ukuthi ngesikhathi kade bufakazi bekhuluma kade bekhona ngaphakathi kwaleli khala kwakhumalo-ke athi bona-ke bakhuluma ngegilamkhuba ezimbili-ke namhlanje igebengu ezimbili-ke lapho-ke kepha abakaze bakhulume ngodaba lwey'gebengu ezinhlanu-ke lapho-ke athi udaba lwey'gebengu ezinhlanu uqhamuke uma ngaba bona sebaphakathi ephenyeni kwicala labo-ke ukukuthi kade bebahlanu uma bebonkana athi kepha kulaba abahlanu-ke kade khona-ke ababili kuphela kade kukhulunywa ngabo-ke ukuthi yibona abangena ngaphakathi kwaloya muzi lana-ke la kwashona khona-ke umufi athi uma ngabe lokho bekumele ukuthi akwenzeke lapho-ke usho ukuthi bekuzomele-ke enze i-identification parade-ke yabasola ababili laba kade kukhulunywa ngabo-ke ngaphakathi kwey'tetimende zabofakazi kade bekhona ngaphakathi kulela khaya.